This is Radhi Devlukia from A Really Good Cry. When you take a shower, where does your shower take you? If you're like me, your shower is your escape from everything. The Kohler Anthem Plus smart showering system lets you create a personalized refuge by fine-tuning water, steam, light, and sound, all from a single control. You can customize music and lighting, even pre-programmed steam therapies. With Anthem Plus, you're not just imagining your sanctuary, you are creating it. And you can save up to 9 of your customized favorites. Personalize your escape with Anthem Plus smart showering, only from Kohler.
1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. And nearly half of survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina started the Purple Leash Project to help eliminate one of the many barriers domestic abuse survivors face, a lack of pet-friendly domestic violence shelters. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters across the country, so abuse survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to get involved.
Small business owners, this one's for you. Chase for Business and iHeart bring you a podcast series called The Unshakables. This one-of-a-kind series will shine the spotlight on small business owners like you who faced a do-or-die moment that ultimately made their business what it is today. Learn more at chase.com/business/podcast. Chase, make more of what's yours. Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A., member FDIC. Copyright 2024, J.P. Morgan Chase & Co.
Sometimes life can seem hard and tough to navigate, but what may seem like the smallest tasks, such as getting out of bed or even brushing your teeth, should be celebrated as a win. And State Farm is here to help you celebrate all your wins. The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
This is Dr. Laurie Santos from the Happiness Lab. Many people have questions about how to improve levels of happiness. Living a healthy lifestyle is one sure way of increasing happiness. And a good place to start is with your oral health. Just a few small changes to your oral care routine, such as changing your toothpaste to Colgate Total, can lead to beneficial changes in your oral health. Colgate Total helps stop oral health problems like gingivitis and cavities before they start, because preventing oral health problems is a lot easier than treating them. Be dentist ready and get Colgate Total at shop.colgate.com/total.
Welcome to How to Money. I'm Joel.
And I am Matt.
And today we're talking about buying what you love without going broke with Jen and Jill from Frugal Friends.
So Joel, I don't want to offend our guest today, but Jen and Jill are basically like the girl version of us. They just got longer hair. Just kidding. They really are friends, though. They talk about money on their podcast, Frugal Friends, which they started right around the same time that we started ours, I think back in 2018. One big difference, though, they've written books, and specifically they have a new book hitting the shelves in January.
We don't have that kind of attention span, do we, Matt?
No. The name of the book, Buy What You Love Without Going Broke. And that is exactly what we're talking about today, spending money. We're going to talk about all the ways that we're doing it wrong, how to go about spending money in like a healthy, values-driven manner, ways to support those new habits, all that and more today. We've got a lot to discuss. There are 4 of us here. After all of us podcasters, so I think we're going to have a lot to get through. So we'll cut to the chase. Jen and Jill, thank you so much for joining us today on How to Money.
Thanks for having us. Such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a full house. We love it.
Most definitely. We're excited for you, excited for this new book. But first question out of the gate that we got to ask everybody who comes on is, what's your craft beer equivalent? What do you like to splurge on? We're going to talk about spending here today. What do you like to splurge on while you're still being smart with your money and thinking about your future?
So for me, I think it's a little weird, but for me, it's not weird. I buy pre-cut vegetables, which in the frugal living space is like aghast. Like, why would you spend extra to have your vegetables pre-cut?
Sounds like heresy.
Right. But if it's that barrier to entry between me cooking and me getting takeout, that's usually what it is the effort that it takes to chop a vegetable. I'm lazy. I embrace it. So pre-chopped vegetables.
You're efficient. You're not lazy.
I love it. I love either way to say it. That's my thing.
Okay, so my wife, she chops her own veggies, not to brag. That being said, she does get the pre-peeled garlic from Aldi in the Ziploc resealable bag, because that is such a time-consuming task, and it gets all in your fingernails, and she hates it. So she's like, I'm buying that pre-peeled garlic, living high on the hog.
I know. I take it a step further and I get minced, the pre-minced garlic. So yeah, I'm there.
Jen has your wife beat like on every level.
With the efficiency.
Yeah. Jill, how about you?
For me, it's paying for car washes. Still the like drive-through kind. But then we've got this place near us called Woody's Wash Shack. I'm not paid by them. I should be. And afterwards, you can wipe down your car and vacuum it out, included in the price of the wash itself. And it is a party to me. Could I clean and vacuum my car at home? Absolutely. Do I have the supplies to do it? Sure do. Would I rather go to Woody's Wash Shack?
Because they're playing the cool like
it
beach music, and they got very strong vacuum.
And sometimes their employees even come over.
It's essential.
Their employees will help you to kind of detail your car, and then you try and tip them, and they can't accept tip.
Wow, it's like Publix.
Woody's Wash Shack is a vibe.
I think the other thing that is included in that is entertainment for your children. If you
because it got the LED, all the colors.
Oh yeah, my kids are like, Dad, please, can we go to the car wash? But then you also get some work out of them. They help you clean the car on the back end. So it's worth it if you can find a cheap enough place, because it hits a bunch of those facets.
I don't have kids, but it's entertaining for me. So
you can borrow mine, Jill.
No thanks.
Soon yours will be old enough, Jen. That's when you know you've like turned the corner, when you start putting them to work, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, life looks a lot different now than when I used to just do everything for you. You're starting to pull your own weight.
I know. Yeah. I do make my 20-month-old bring his own diaper to the trash can, and that's nice.
Yeah, see?
That's progress.
Yeah,
I know.
You got the drift.
Yeah.
Life hack.
I'm curious. Okay, so our listeners know that where Joel and I stand when it comes to organization, or how nerdy each one of us is when we approach our finances. What's y'all's take on budgeting specifically? Because Joel's like more of a shoot from the hip kind of Westerner, like a Western movie kind of guy. I'm more like a sniper kind of rifle kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm very exact, serious on budgeting. What about y'all? Do y'all have a similar breakdown?
You've got two of us too.
Yeah. So I'm very much like Joel, which is so funny because both Joel and I have the specific personal finance backgrounds, like pre-podcasting.
Yeah.
But I am very much like go with the flow. And I think the reason I love values-based spending so much is because it allows me to feel confident in my outgo and income without having a really strict plan. So that's definitely more my vibe.
And I like being in the nitty gritty. It's just fun for me. I have a spreadsheet that I created. I like looking at all of my transactions. However, both of our approaches to budgets are that it's like step 4 or 5 in the grand scheme of personal finance. There's so much more that needs to come before putting numbers to paper. The way that we manage money, the decisions that we make about spending are far more nuanced than just math.
Okay.
So it's really not the first step for us.
Yeah. So like what, in your opinion, what comes first? Because I think for a lot of folks, budgeting, like let's say you're trying to get fit. It's like, okay, exercise. Like I feel like budgeting is sort of like the exercise equivalent when it comes to physical fitness. But what do you think should come first?
Well, I think budgeting is actually the like physique plan, right? If you have a plan to get a 6-pack, you then need to develop the skills of exercising in order to execute that plan, right? So we talk about essentially a plan to developing those skills so that you can actually stick with your budget. That's what so many people are missing.
So both kind of tangible and intangible. Intangibly, it is a lot to do with understanding ourselves and kind of what makes us tick. What are our values? What do we enjoy spending money on? What could we care less to spend money on? And tangibly, we talk about a couple of things that you can do before you're even budgeting, including a 90-day transaction inventory. So even knowing first, where is your money going? Typically, what are you finding yourself spending on can help to inform the plan that we make going forward. So we say doing a 90-day transaction inventory because it kind of captures the typical transactions, purchases that we make, and can maybe even get some of those outliers, the things that don't happen every month, but they happen occasionally, kind of a thing, and compile that all into a spreadsheet to be able to see, where am I spending money on most often? What's taking up the majority of my expenses? And might even be informative on some of the habits or impulse purchases that we tend to make. What time of day am I typically spending impulsively? At what location am I typically spending impulsively? How do I feel about where my money is going? So even creating a whole other column of essentially being able to journal about our transactions, not lengthy paragraphs, but being able to identify, do I remember what came just before I made this purchase? Do I remember, was I with anybody? How was I feeling? How did I feel after I made the purchase? These things can kind of help us to understand, how do I feel about the way that I'm spending money? Do I even remember it? Did it fulfill my needs? Did it satisfy whatever it was that I was hoping that it satisfied? Did it solve for the problem that I thought it was going to solve for? Can then help us to understand, is this where I still want to be putting my money, or are there different ways that I can be allocating the way that I spend, which can then help to inform the budget?
Yeah. No, I like that. And Jill, one of the things you said kind of at the beginning there was you talked about knowing ourselves and how that's kind of an important first step. And you guys argue in the book that the way you're spending money, it's not necessarily a personality trait. I think we tend to think of it like, I am this, or my spouse is this, and it is this ingrained thing. Like, are we spenders or savers because of nature or nurture? Is it a habit that we've accrued over time?
I think a lot of people in marketing want us to define ourselves as spender or saver, because it's a lot easier to define yourself as a spender because everybody spends money. So if I have internalized that I am a spender, it is a lot easier for a marketer to get me to spend money, especially impulsively. So I think that kind of perpetuates it. But we tend to live, for better or for worse, in extremes, because it's a lot easier to look at things in black and white, one end of the spectrum or the other, and that we don't have to process a lot of nuance or a lot of follow-up questions when we look at things in black and white. And so the spender saver idea is that black and white idea. The problem is that everyone is a spender and everyone should be and can be a saver. It just depends on where you are at financially, what season you're in, at what capacity you do each of those.
Like what you're pointing to there are essentially labels, right? And the ability to sort of latch on to certain labels. And in our sort of modern consumerist culture, I think oftentimes we can tend to let our purchases reflect our chosen identity or the labels that we have adopted. Do you think that that's a part of the problem when it comes to how it is that we're maybe unintentionally or maybe even intentionally spending our money?
It's almost like, I'm outdoorsy, I got to get a new Subaru.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that these labels that we take on could even go just beyond how we spend, but how we manage money as a whole, how we think about money, how we approach it, and then how we interact with it and spend it. We talk a little bit in the book about kind of these cognitive distortions, to say it in a clinical way, or just unhelpful thinking styles that can become a part of our daily living that absolutely impacts finances, but aren't just a financial thing, but labeling, all all or nothing thinking, overgeneralizing. We can do these things in all aspects of our lives, but especially too when it comes to our finances, thinking I am a spender or a saver, or, everything is all wrong and I'm broke and I'll never be able to make more money, or labeling our situation however it is that we might label it. I think really being able to look at what have I believed to be true about my situation, what of that thinking style is helpful, what's not actually serving me, and how can I bring in some reality to the situation. I know for me, I can catastrophize a ton when it comes to my finances. This happened when we paid taxes last year, and it was the first time that the business had shown a profit, and we were an S Corp at the time, and I had only had W-2s that year, which was also very unusual for me. I'm used to being a 1099 and needing to set my own money aside, but I didn't that year. Thinking, it's all getting withdrawn from my paychecks, we're good to go, until I got hit with a tax bill. And I was so overwhelmed by this and catastrophized. I'm like, this is an insane amount of money. Thank goodness we did have money set aside. Like it didn't cause us to go broke. But I then was thinking, if I have another crisis event, this is going to be really awful for us. So I even so my husband and I, we have scooters as like our second vehicle. And I put a rule on my husband and I that we couldn't ride our scooters until we like put more money back into savings, because I was afraid if we got into an accident, then we'd have to pay our medical deductible, and that could cause us to go into absolute financial ruin. So I just really went to such an extreme with it.
Also, no eating shellfish, just in case we have an allergic reaction.
I know. We develop it this year.
It was legit. And I almost had a breakdown in our accountant's office where I'm just like, what? How did I not see this coming? I'm the worst ever. How do I have a personal finance podcast? I can't let anyone find out about this. Here I am talking openly about it now.
In front of tens of millions of people, nonetheless.
Yeah, now everybody knows.
Right.
But it took me pausing to realize and kind of talk myself through this situation of, okay, what made me think that I wasn't going to owe any taxes this year? And come to find out, it's a problem a lot of people face where they don't withhold enough, even as W-2 employees. It was the first time ever that I had been fully a W-2 employee. So it's just, I just didn't know. I'm not stupid, but I encountered a situation that I had a lack of knowledge about, but I now know. And I can move forward. I did have the money. Awesome. I'm not going to have to go into debt for this. I can make changes. I can actually help other people to be able to understand and protect themselves against some crisis event in their tax accountant office and stay out of tax prison. But I think for me, knowing this about myself, that, okay, I can tend to overgeneralize, and what are the steps that I need to take in order to help myself calm down, bring in some of the reality, and start to put action to it rather than just staying in my head and taking on all of these cognitive distortions, these unhelpful thinking styles that are actually not going to serve me well when it comes to managing my money.
And then ignoring it and not paying your taxes.
And just like,
come get me, Uncle Sam.
Right. Move to some island where they can't, the long arm of the law can't get you, right? Just go out on the lamb. Jen, I guess when we're talking about spending, a lot of people think about spending as something that they have to do, right? To put a roof over their head, pay the car note, although Matt and I say don't ever have a car note, or something they get to do, right? Now this is the spending that's like kind of fun. I'm buying ice cream with my family or whatever. But you guys talk about spending as a skill. So I don't know, I'm curious to hear like why you think it's a skill, and then how we can become like more skilled at spending.
Yeah, it really is a mindset shift, because we're not taught how to spend money. We are simply taught, we're barely taught how to earn it. We're taught that you can get a job or you can start a business, and that's pretty much it. And then we're taught you have to spend as little as possible in order to be responsible with money. And if you can make enough, then invest it. But we're not really going to teach you that either. So that's kind of the extent of our financial education growing up. And even as adults, nobody online really talks about how to spend money. A lot of the talk in the frugality space is about how to get as much as possible for as little as possible. How to get good deals, use coupons, BOGO, or just deprive yourself so you can live with nothing. And that's great for some people, I guess. But for me, I love spending money. I just do. I love getting treats. I love treating myself. I love treating my kids. I think they deserve it. I deserve it. But I feel guilty when I treat myself. So what's up with that? Like, I definitely deserve it. So there is this radical middle between spending all your money because you have it and being really quote unquote good at spending, and then saving all your money, which is the other extreme. And usually that's done out of fear of not having money, because if I spend it, I'll need it as soon as I spend it. So where is this radical middle where we can, yes, spend money, but also save it and not go broke? And that is where we found that spending is a skill. So if you're going to learn how to spend money and build the skills and the practices you need to stick with a budget, then you've got to look at a lot of sub skills. So like any skill or activity, to master it, there are a lot of sub skills. So like to be good at communication, you also have to be good at not just talking, but listening. And it's the same with spending. So we talk a lot in the book about these different sub skills to stick with being good at spending.
Totally. Yeah. So I think one of those is curiosity. You talk about that in chapter 2. How can that be helpful when it comes to folks learning how to spend their money in a more value-driven way?
Curiosity is one of those pieces that we say should also come before making a budget. And it can be part of that 90-day transaction inventory process where we understand ourselves more as we take a curious kind of not knowing approach to ourselves, just wondering about what we enjoy, what makes us tick, what we don't like, what we can say easy no's to and better yeses to. And so when we can approach ourselves with curiosity, it includes asking questions, but avoiding why questions. We found that the why question can really put us on the defense, or that automatic kind of fight mode. It's the difference between why do you want to spend so much at the car wash to what is it about Woody's Wash Shack that is so enjoyable and so much better than washing your car.
I love that we're diving deep on the car wash.
But the one is I need to justify myself, and the other is let me dig deeper. Let me think more about what it is that I enjoy so much about this activity, this thing, these items, and can help us learn how can we even go further, deeper into those things, and possibly are there ways that we can meet that value without spending money if necessary.
Yeah, and a lot of that can result in some false rationalization where we'll say, okay, well, my car needs to be clean, so I need to go to the car wash. And that's how we justify things. And then we don't give space to get creative with how we spend and save money. And so, yeah, maybe going to the car wash, you love it. It's a vibe and you can afford it. We say it's okay to want to go to the car wash. You don't need to justify and rationalize your purchases to be needs. They don't all need to be needs. It can be very empowering to want something and then be able to afford it. And then when we're looking at our expenses more as wants than trying to falsely justify them as needs, it opens up a lot more space to get creative with how we meet needs.
Yeah. So I can see that curiosity maybe if I'm thinking, all right, should I spend money on a video game system or on some hiking shoes? I could see saying, well, how do I like to spend my time? And saying, oh, wait, I like to get on the trails more than I like to stay indoors. And so that's going to help me make the decision between those two things. But what if somebody's saying, my curiosity reveals that I like fancy cars, but I also don't really have the budget to buy the brand new Rivian. How do you help people decipher thinking through value spending when maybe they can't afford the things they're into?
So it's great, like I said, to want things. It's really great to want things. But what we value really comes down to our needs. So often when we talk about values-based spending, the first thing that comes to somebody's mind is, but like, yeah, I like lattes and like, that's what I value. And in reality, values are much deeper than that. They are technically human needs. And so it's very broad, but we have found that we can distill what at least most Americans value most highly into four things. They all start with F, and then we'll talk about like how we found those. It's family, friends, faith, and fulfilling work. So some relationships with your family, romantic relationships, kids, friendships, just feeling of connection, belonging on deep levels, and then also just on like recreational or hobby levels, some kind of faith or spirituality, and then fulfilling work. So not necessarily like your passion project, but work where you're feeling like you're contributing, that you're using your creativity, you're being able to live in your full potential, just work that you enjoy and then also pays you. So those are kind of the four baselines. Pretty much everything we spend money on is really truly to get one of those things. And if it's not one of those, it can come down to something on the hierarchy of needs. I don't know if you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it's like 5 levels. The first 2 are basic needs. So we've got food, shelter, water, and then we've got safety and consistency. Above that, we've got psychological. So that's where we get into the family, friends, and then we have self-esteem above that, which a lot of that can be found in your work. So it's respect, self-confidence, stuff like that. And then at the very top, you've got self-actualization, passion, creativity, innovation, like feeling like you're living in your full potential. We found a lot of that in fulfilling work and in spiritual practices. So that's how we got to these 4 Fs, is looking at this hierarchy of human needs. And so if one of your values isn't meeting one of those 4, it's probably still going to fall somewhere on that hierarchy of needs. So when I say I value a nice car, like a Rivian, like they're beautiful cars. They're great. I would love one. But what I truly like, I want that. It's not a need. And it's empowering for me to say like, yes, I want it. And if I can afford it, I'll buy it. But actually what I want more is relationships with the people I love, flexibility in work, and, you know, a community of people around me. So those are really the things I want first. And then if I'm fulfilling all those things, then I can double check. I can double back and see if I still want the Rivian and see if it's still an important thing to budget for.
Yeah, see if there's slack in the budget. 2 things I will say. When you say Rivian, it sounds twice as expensive.
Rivian.
Then when,
Rivian. I got dinged so many times when we were recording our audiobook for
pronunciation
saying
and
things
stuff.
like normal things in life wrong.
They're like, Jen, just say it normally.
Like it's really Maslow's hierarchy of need, and I still say Maslow. So I'm still saying
Jen she also says tomato. So all right, we've got more to get to with Jen and Jill, including like, well, what do we do in a society that is constantly trying to, especially this time of year, part us from our money? We'll get to some questions about that with them right after this.
Monarch is the modern way to manage your money and can be super helpful when trying to stick to a budget. We especially like it for the ways it can help you collaborate and get on the same page with your partner.
Monarch is the top-rated all-in-one personal finance app because Monarch helps you make smart money moves. And right now, listeners of this show can get 30% off your first year by going to monarchmoney.com/frugal.
Monarch is easy to use and allows you to see all your finances in minutes and track your spending patterns at a glance. You can also share your account with your partner or even a financial advisor so you can have the clarity and peace of mind your money deserves.
After trying out Monarch for myself, I get why it's the top-rated personal finance app. And right now, listeners of this show will get 30% off your first year when you go to monarchmoney.com/frugal. That's monarchmoney.com/frugal to get 30% off your first year.
This is Radhi Devlukia from A Really Good Cry. When you take a shower, where does your shower take you? If you're like me, your shower is your escape from pretty much everything. The Kohler Anthem Plus Smart Showering System lets you make that refuge exactly what you need it to be. It lets you fine-tune water, steam, light, and sound all from a single control. You can dial in your temperature settings to the degree, so it's just how you like it. And you can stream music from your own playlist and program the lighting to create the right mood. And with pre-programmed steam therapies with infused aromatherapy oils, it's really getting into spa territory. With Anthem Plus, you're not just imagining your sanctuary, you are creating it. And you can save up to 9 of your customized favorites. The system even pairs with Kohler Connect app, so you can start your shower remotely before you're even in the bathroom. Honestly, I'm relaxed just thinking about it. Personalize your escape with Anthem Plus Smart Showering, only from Kohler.
Just a few years ago, only 3% of domestic violence shelters accepted pets, meaning many abuse survivors had to choose between staying in a difficult situation for their pet or leaving their pet behind. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience domestic abuse in their lifetime, and nearly half of survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina believes in the healing power of pets, particularly for survivors of abuse. They believe pets and people are better together, which is one of the many reasons they started the Purple Leash Project. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping break down one of the many barriers abuse survivors face: the lack of pet-friendly domestic violence shelters. Purina has helped increase the amount of pet-friendly shelters across the country from 3% to nearly 20% through the Purple Leash Project. With more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters, survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to get involved.
Even if you think it's a bit overhyped, AI is suddenly everywhere. From self-driving cars to molecular medicine to business efficiency. If it's not in your industry yet, it is coming fast. But AI needs a lot of speed and computing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? Time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a blazing fast and secure platform for your infrastructure, database, and application development, plus all your AI and machine learning workloads. OCI costs 50% less for compute and 80% less for networking, so you're saving a pile of money. Thousands of businesses have already upgraded to OCI, including MGM Resorts, Specialized Bikes, and Fireworks AI. Right now, Oracle is offering to cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to OCI for new U.S. customers with minimum financial commitment. Offer ends December 31st, 2024. See if your company qualifies for this special offer at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic.
Proving trust is more important than ever, especially when it comes to your security program. Vanta helps centralize program requirements and automate evidence collection for frameworks like SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and more, so you save time and money and build customer trust. And with Vanta, you get continuous visibility into the state of your controls. Join more than 8,000 global companies like Atlassian, Flow Health, and Quora, who trust Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. Now that's a new way to GRC. Get $1,000 off Vanta when you go to vanta.com/special. That's vanta.com/special for $1,000 off.
All right, we are back from the break talking about how you can basically buy whatever you want without going broke with Jen and Jill.
Including a Rivian.
Frugal Friends. I'm curious, like I've got a question, I guess, about self-control. I'm curious if you think it's harder than ever today to just rein in our spending. Because it seems like at every turn, there's a company out there that are trying to part us from our dollars. Do you think that this is a new challenge, or has it always been the case?
It has always been a challenge, but never more challenging than it is now. In the 1920s, and when like PR and marketing really, after the Industrial Revolution, when marketing really came into its own, it was you had to be at the right place at the right time, listening to the radio or reading the newspaper to get an ad. And now you wake up and you open a device and they are right there, not just random, but tailored to you. And there are so many options for it's never been easier to start a business or to offer a product or service. So there's so many different types now too. So it can be very confusing to decide, do I have this problem? Do I need this product or service to solve the problem? And you just have to ask yourself so many more questions than you used to. So yes, it is harder than ever to keep your money to yourself.
Yeah, it feels like marketing in the 1960s was like, yeah, I want a new TV, but now like the way that they can drill down via algorithms and marketing because of all of the data that they have about you can be so specific, and you're like, how did you know? Like the algorithms know us better than our friends and family, it seems at times. And then that can, I think, trigger impulsive spending. And that is a massive enemy of being able to spend responsibly. So like, how do we counteract this marketing machine and the influx of kind of like proposals to get us to part with our money on a regular basis? Is it part of just kind of like where we hang out and not hanging out there anymore?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to say that we are not bad or there's something wrong with us because we impulse spend. I think that will forever and always be something that we face. We see something, it seems to solve a problem that we have, and we buy it. That's going to happen. And so in some ways, part of the solution can be to factor that into our spending plan, that I want to create some flexibility month to month, week to week on allowing myself to be able to see something and buy it if I want to, and not feel like I have to constantly deprive myself. But from there, I think it can be helpful to identify what type of impulse spender are we, because we're not all the same in the ways in which we make impulsive spending decisions. It could be some of the top 5 that we identify in the book is spending out of habit, spending as an activity, spending as the result of social influence. The thrill of the hunt can cause us to impulse spend, and stress or emotional spending. And so that 90-day transaction inventory can be helpful in identifying what type of impulse spender am I? Am I typically buying things that I wasn't planning on when I was feeling sad or celebratory? Or it's the same day at the same time at the same location, and so it's a habit spending? Or is it every weekend when I'm out with friends? So maybe it's social influence or shopping as an activity. And so when we can first identify what is it that draws me to spend in this way, then can help to inform how will I then intersect this pattern that's happening. And each one is going to have a different type of solution to it. So for instance, if let's say for me, it's when I'm scrolling on my phone late at night and all these Instagrammers are getting me and my walls are down and I've made too many decisions today and I'm just going to one-click buy that thing because it looks cool. If that's kind of where I tend to be finding myself spending the most money, then there's a couple of things that I could do from there. It could mean that I need to curate who I'm following better, that Instagram, social media, the internet can be a wonderful place and have tremendous resources, but sometimes they don't serve us well. But could I be taking inventory of who I'm following? Could I be following accounts that are talking about more conscious consumption or lower waste, or helping me towards some of the goals that I have, like meal planning and prepping more? And I can follow these accounts that have interesting recipes, easy meal prep recipes. Or it could be that I need to find another activity that's going to provide me with the dopamine hit that shopping does give us, that finding something and being about to purchase it really does release for us. And so for some, that could be, instead of scrolling, I'm going to watch funny videos. Or if you're an animal person, you're going to watch some cute cats and dogs doing whatever it is that they do online.
Or go play some pickleball. You know?
Well, if it's late at night, I don't know if I'm going to like go out and put on my sneaks
pickleball
and
at midnight.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can, but you shouldn't.
But something to replace that action that is of similar value or similar time commitment or similar, like, doesn't require you to get out of bed and put your sneakers on. Finding something else that you can do instead of, rather than just completely eliminating it, finding an alternative solution with your creativity.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
we say similar sizes. Like there are small size, like low barrier to entry things, and you want to replace those with lower barrier to entry things. And then there's medium size, and we've got lists in the book to kind of help you figure out, if this is the size of my trigger, then this is the size of my solution, sort of thing.
Nice. It's a similar, it's getting a similar fix for that receptor or whatever it is that you're trying to what you're trying to fill there. But you mentioned social media, and I wonder, like, if even more than the algorithms and sort of the different products we're fed, because like on one end you've got like TikTok Shop, and literally you've got folks who are hawking goods and they want you to buy that thing. But I'm curious of your thoughts on social media, because I almost feel that the exposure to the different types of lifestyles that are out there, that could even be more detrimental to our personal finances than a one-off buying some tennis shoes, which literally happened to me because Vans was like, oh, you love these shoes, and so I bought those shoes.
That's a wannabe skater. So.
But that isn't necessarily going to wreck me as much as following somebody that has this beautiful home. Oh, they live out in Lake Tahoe, or there's like these, like the different mom influencers that live out in like Utah and stuff like that. But like seeing their homes, for instance, and I wonder if just that exposure to all that's out there, if that has almost warped our perspective as to what is normal, and even that right there causes us to make like life-altering decisions that inevitably leads to like our financial ruin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's more of, I think it causes less of these big life changes like home purchases, but I think that the grandioseness is intentional, because I'm looking at this beautiful home and I'm like, oh, I know I can't have that. I know I can't afford that, but I can afford this coffee maker that's in her video. Like, I can afford a small piece of it.
You can get one step closer to their lifestyle.
A small portion of it. Yeah.
Or these videos that have feature 40 different products and everybody rage hates on it. They don't want you to buy 40 products from their video. They want you to buy one. And you look at that, you're like, oh, I can't afford all of these things, but I can afford one thing. And that's the goal. If their video was reasonable, like in a normal looking house or with one or two products, you're less likely to feel inadequate enough to make the impulse purchase, to try to increase or get closer to that aspiration.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's so important to then understand some of the deeper need that purchase is tethered to. And that can be a question we ask ourselves is which of the 4 F's might I be trying to get closer to in making this purchase? We talked with a woman recently who said, you know what, I think my recent purchase from a Instagram influencer for these cute dresses actually had to do with my need for belonging and connection. And that's a really vulnerable thing to realize and to name, but how powerful to be able to say, okay, the next time I encounter this, I'm more equipped to know this isn't actually about me needing another dress.
Yeah.
I think I probably have plenty. This might be about me wanting deeper connection with people.
Yeah.
How do I get that instead?
Yeah, and then there's trade-offs when you buy the dress. Yeah, but of not being able to do other things with that money. But you're right. I think we are often spending money in a moment of fatigue or in a desire to fill some sort of other, for lack of a better phrase, hole in our heart. And you also make the case in the book for getting the biggest financial decisions right? You basically talk about, if you're able to reduce your housing costs or your transportation costs, it can kind of act as a pressure release valve, which makes some of the smaller purchases less harrowing. The book, The Latte Factor, was super popular. And then there was this whole thing about, man, if you buy coffee out, you're an idiot and you're ruining your personal finances. And I feel so much more of an ability to not stress about small decisions because I drive a ridiculously old car that costs me almost nothing. How big and important is that for people? And it's the fact that the expensive recurring car payment is preventing them from being able to feel any sort of bliss in those minor purchases.
Yeah, pressure release valve is such a perfect term for it, because when you are focusing on these bigger things, then you don't have to stress about the smaller things so much. And I feel as a woman who grew up in early 2000s diet culture, And I saw this video recently, and I just got a text. We talked about this in an episode recently. I got a text from a friend who listened to it, and she was cracking up. But I saw this video of this woman talking about how to save money, and she references Weight Watchers, who apparently were saying that the way you lose weight or the way you gain weight is through BLTs. Bites, licks, and tastes. And they're like, pay attention to all these small tastes, right? I know it's so bizarre. But they're like, you basically can't eat anything good or you'll gain weight. And so this woman was saying, you can't spend on anything fun or you'll be broke. And I'm like, what in the actual heck? Like, those small pennies and dollars are not what is causing the problem. The biggest problems are the income and your biggest expenses, which according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics for Americans is your housing, transportation, and food. So if we can really
unless you're
hone
chill
in on,
and it's the car wash.
and car washes was number 4.
Right,
Actually, investing was number 4.
No, Woody's is affordable.
That's
Don't
Woody's
you worry.
is one of those BLTs. Yeah, I'll let you decide which one. But if we can really hone in on the cost of our housing, the cost of our transportation, and the cost of our food, then we don't have to worry as much about all the other things, and it definitely takes the pressure off of getting values-based spending 100% right.
Let's talk about some of the different external factors that we all deal with. How does our environment impact our different buying decisions? Like, for instance, can a messy home, can that really lead to more purchasing mistakes as we are feeling overwhelmed at the end of the day and doom scrolling and get fed something, I don't know, something that we think is going to, like Joel said, fill that empty hole.
Somebody read the book.
I know. Wow. Thanks for this alley-oop. So absolutely, we are living within a context. There's this idea that's talked about in social work. It's kind of a foundational concept of person in environment, PI for short, because food. And it's this understanding that, we are individuals with our own stories and experiences, likes and dislikes, that exist also in an environment, within a context that also informs kind of how they are influencing and being influenced. So our environment certainly includes our immediate physical spaces, but also our larger community and where we are. So everything from who we choose to follow on social media to our friends that we have and how we engage with them, the ways that we enjoy connection, to the homes that we have and the types of neighborhoods that we live in, to our immediate environment, and maybe even how cluttered or how simplified it may or may not be, can absolutely bear weight on what we think is normal, as well as how cluttered our decision making might be, how fatigued we might be, depending on how much stimulation is happening around us. So there's obviously now so many different things that could be looked at in that. But if we were to just talk about our immediate physical spaces, absolutely having a simplified environment. And that doesn't mean minimalist. That doesn't mean you only have a couple of things and all of your walls are white. It could just mean that you know what you have does serve you, and you know where it's located, rather than I have no idea and I don't know where my things are, so I'm buying duplicates instead, and now I feel stressed, and so I'm going to purchase things that I probably don't need because I feel overwhelmed and this is the dopamine hit that I need. So we do certainly talk about how important it can be to simplify our environment and how that act can help us in identifying what is our clutter kryptonite, what are we maybe drawn to spending on a lot, maybe reduce the amounts of duplicates that we purchase, the amount of just decor, the things that we think that we need, can help us really open our eyes to, okay, but what do I have already? And start to build some of that contentment and also the repulsion of decluttering that I never want to have to do that again. So I'm not going to purchase things to refill this house again.
Yeah, we've all been there where we bought something and we're like, already have that. I found it like 2 months later, right after putting the light bulb in or whatever it is that we ordered a second time. And yeah, I think the more we are organized, like it clean space, clean brain. But I'm curious too, Jen, what do you think like about kind of our overall culture from a self-reliance standpoint? Instead of asking your neighbor for a cup of sugar, now we can Instacart it, yet it's going to cost us a whole lot more. It feels like this is part of it, and that maybe we've kind of become so bought into this self-reliance thing to such an extreme that we're unwilling to ask our neighbor for something, even though it like probably actually aids in our relationship and our friendship over time, and it also helps us save money. Is there something I'm getting in that?
Well, yeah, our country was founded on the desire for self-reliance. So it is literally ingrained in the foundation of where we live, is this desire to not be beholden to essentially a monarchy.
Thanks, Puritans, you know?
So we have just like taken that, and everything, so much of technology has gone towards that because it is such an American value that it's very marketable. And I believe that it has been taken to an extreme that is really detrimental, not just to our finances, but just to our mental health and how disconnected we can be from each other. And so we are seeing, like, if we're relying on someone, that we are not successful or that we're mooching or just, we don't want to be seen as a burden. Yet if somebody asked us for help, we'd be more than happy to help them. Like whether they're in, dire need or just we're willing to ask, right? But we're not willing to ask. And that's just a cultural thing that has been like ingrained in us and fueled by capitalism. And so I think we really need to fight those feelings of like asking for not help, but like connectedness and sharing resources is not a sign of weakness, but it is a sign of wanting to be connected.
I like that. Yeah, I think we could all use a little more connection in our lives, and oftentimes instead of reaching out to other people, we tend to consume our way out of any sort of little predicament we might find ourselves in.
It becomes so much easier too, right? Just to click the button, one click to buy. 100%. It shows up on my doorstep even in hours instead of days. And so I don't even need to ask my neighbor next door for the butter. It's just going to come to me.
Yeah. But ladies, we've got more that we want to get to. Actually, we're getting close to Christmas, and so we got some, some practical questions to get to. We'll get to all that right after this.
This is Riley DeVlukia from A Really Good Cry. When you take a shower, where does your shower take you? If you're like me, your shower is your escape from pretty much everything. The Kohler Anthem Plus smart showering system lets you make that refuge exactly what you need it to be. It lets you fine-tune water, steam, light, and sound all from a single control. You can dial in your temperature settings to the degree, so it's just how you like it. And you can stream music from your own playlist and program the lighting to create the right mood. And with pre-programmed steam therapies with infused aromatherapy oils, it's really getting into spa territory. With Anthem Plus, you're not just imagining your sanctuary, you are creating it. And you can save up to 9 of your customized favorites. The system even pairs with Kohler Connect app, so you can start your shower remotely before you're even in the bathroom. Honestly, I'm relaxed just thinking about it. Personalize your escape with Anthem Plus smart showering, only from Kohler.
Just a few years ago, only 3% of domestic violence shelters accepted pets, meaning many abuse survivors had to choose between staying in a difficult situation for their pet or leaving their pet behind. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience domestic abuse in their lifetime, and nearly half of survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina believes in the healing power of pets, particularly for survivors of abuse. They believe pets and people are better together, which is one of the many reasons they started the Purple Leash Project. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping break down one of the many barriers abuse survivors face: the lack of pet-friendly domestic violence shelters. Purina has helped increase the amount of pet-friendly shelters across the country from 3% to nearly 20% through the Purple Leash Project. With more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters, survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to get involved.
Small business owners, this one's for you. Chase for Business and iHeart bring you a podcast series called The Unshakables. This one-of-a-kind series will shine the spotlight on small business owners like you who faced a do-or-die moment that ultimately made their business what it is today. Learn more at chase.com/business/podcast. Chase, make more of what's yours. Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A., member FDIC. Copyright 2024, J.P. Morgan Chase & Co.
This is Dr. Laurie Santos from the Happiness Lab. Many people have questions about how to improve levels of happiness, and there are a lot of different ways. Happiness is unique to each individual, but living a healthy lifestyle is one sure way of increasing happiness. And a good place to start is with your oral health. Just a few small changes to your oral care routine, such as changing your toothpaste to Colgate Total, can lead to beneficial changes in your oral health. Colgate Total helps stop oral health problems like gingivitis and cavities before they start. Before they start is an important part, because preventing oral health problems is a lot easier than treating them. So for a happier, healthier you, use Colgate Total and actively help prevent oral health problems like gingivitis and cavities. You'll be happy you did. Be dentist ready and get Colgate Total at shop.colgate.com/total.
Are your lingering depression symptoms getting in your way? If you're on an antidepressant for major depressive disorder, MDD, and you've made some progress, but your unresolved symptoms leave you feeling stuck, it may be time to ask your doctor about Vraylar, cariprazine. Vraylar is a prescription medicine approved for use with antidepressant medicines to treat MDD in adults. Adding Vraylar to an antidepressant is clinically proven to help relieve overall depression symptoms better than an antidepressant alone. Results may vary. Build on the progress you've already made. Ask your doctor if adding on Vraylar to your current antidepressant could help give you a lift in relief. Vraylar is not approved in elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis or for people under 18. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Report unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, as these may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Difficulty moving, tremors, slow or uncontrolled body movements, restlessness, feeling like you need to move around, nausea, constipation, insomnia, dizziness, increased appetite, and fatigue are common side effects. Side effects may not appear for several weeks. For a lift in relief, ask about adding Vraylar, Vraylar. Visit Vraylar.com or call 1-877-6-VRAYLAR to learn more.
All right, we're back. We're still talking with Jen and Jill from the Frugal Friends podcast. We're talking about buying stuff and hopefully just some good advice about to help us be able to buy the things that we actually want without screwing up our finances in the process. And ladies, we are getting close to Christmas, and I don't know. I would be curious to know actually how the How to Money audience is doing as far as like what percentage of the gifts they've planned to buy have they actually bought already.
Well, they're wrapped under the tree by now.
I would hope so. Those planners, right? But like, almost everyone feels compelled to spend to express their love at one time or the other, and that's not always bad. Like buying an engagement ring for my wife, that was like one of the best purchases I've ever made. But how do you think about spending to show affection, especially during the holidays?
I think you do not have to spend money to make the season magical or to tell people that you care about them. That doesn't mean you don't have to spend altogether, but I do, for Jen and I, we've both made lists of the things that we will spend money on this holiday season and the things that are easy no's for us. We are not going to spend on these things. And that has really helped to free up feeling really confident about spending on the things that are these intentional, we've already made a plan for it, this is actually going to be fulfilling, versus the things that maybe everybody else is doing or it's kind of obligatory, but I've learned I don't need to spend on that to really enjoy this time or to tell people that I care about them. I think that a well-written letter to somebody, encouraging them, telling them what they mean to you, can be far better than some lackluster, cheap $5-10 whatever that you bought because you just thought you had to. So and I probably even no gift is better than a tacky gift, but absolutely being able to identify in what ways could I really encourage this person or build them up. The things that I've kept from friends are the pictures that they sent to me or a letter of encouragement. I can't really tell you any other like small gift that I've been given that I've kept or even remember who gave to me, but absolutely I keep the meaningful cards and notes and again, pictures sent that elicit memories together. So I think being thoughtful this season and considering how can I enjoy the things that make me feel festive without spending where it's not necessary.
And I feel similarly to Jill, but I have a mother who wants to give gifts more than she wants to like listen when I say that I don't need one.
Bus meet mom.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of people who gift giving is their love language and they just want to do it. And so for them, if that's you, then I think investing in local businesses or organizations is a fantastic way to live out that desire and that value for you. And even if you're like, the person is going to appreciate that you invested in something local. So for me, I know I'm going to end up giving a few gifts like White Elephant or just random people. And so what I did was I went to a local succulent shop and I bought a couple of their $3 succulents. And then I went to the thrift store and I got a couple, bowls or, cute planters. And I will plant succulents in thrifted bowls. And so I have invested in 2 different local, like a business and a local organization. And I feel good about that. So even if the person may not like love that gift, I feel really good about where my money has gone in the community.
Very cool. Have either of y'all set like hard budget amounts for how much you're looking to spend this Christmas, this holiday season?
Yeah, I every month put aside money for the holidays because I do enjoy it so much. And
of course you do.
And yes, I've been right. I'm
guessing Jen just follows her heart.
Oh, I do.
She sure
I
does.
absolutely just follow my heart.
It's kind of like, I guess, harkens back to the original budgeting question, but that's exactly what I do.
I feel so seen, and I don't know if that's a good thing.
It is, but it is good.
It helps me to even look back on years prior. Thankfully, we can do that with the internet to identify what have I spent on years prior? How much should I maybe anticipate spending this year? What did I enjoy spending on? What did I not? This year, my husband and I have decided, even though I put money aside for the holidays, that we are not giving gifts to each other. Last year, we did it and we returned, both of us, every single thing that we got for each other. That now I'm just like, we're not doing it. That's not going to happen. But what we do really love is hosting people in our home and eating good food and maybe going to a concert or an event of some sort. And so that's what our money that I have set aside is going to go to. We're just going to eat really well.
All right. Last question for you guys. How has value-based spending changed your life? And combined with that, what are your biggest spending struggles currently?
So it has given me a lot of freedom to spend. I have gone back and forth. When we were paying off debt, my husband and I felt guilty every purchase I made. Even if I'd made a budget and I had put money in the budget for something, I felt guilty spending on it because it wasn't the quote unquote best use of the money. And then once we were done, I couldn't get myself to spend money because I was like, we got to reach financial independence and invest it all. But then I ended up just reverting to my old ways of like mindless spending for a little while. And I was like, I'll just make as much money as possible. And so it was really in that season where I had to decide like, what is enough? what is enough to earn? What is enough to spend? And once I started asking myself nuanced questions and started rewriting the rules that I had, been reading through all these personal finance books and started innovating and making my own rules, that was values-based spending. Values-based spending isn't a set of rules. It is a guideline, essentially a framework to help you make your own rules. And that created a lot of freedom for me to say yes to more things that I value, and also to say no to things that, I may like and I may value, but I know I value something else more. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel deprived. I want to live the fullest life possible. And I've defined what that is.
For me, I'm going to steal the word that Jen just used, but I would agree that it is freedom and flexibility for me, not just for myself, but I think for those around me, recognizing that spending and managing money is not a one size fits all. I think values-based spending recognizes that and creates room for everybody to find their own kind of radical middle, the things that they want to spend on and feel really confident in their money management, and that it's okay if it looks different for me than it does for Jen or anybody else. And I think has really increased my confidence in the money decisions that I make, my intentionality, the way that I consume, to not feel guilty about spending wildly on travel, but being okay with being a one vehicle household and hardly ever buying new clothes, because I've really identified it's okay if you think it's not frugal for me to have, the most expensive travel plans, but here's where I make it work for our situation. So I have really loved kind of leaning into that and just the confidence that it brings. And I would say the area of spending that is still a sore subject for me, it's always going to be food. I've definitely given myself a lot more freedom in, okay, this is just the amount of money that I like to spend on food. I think other people would balk at the amount of money that I spend for two people. But it is what works for us. But I'm constantly in this ebb and flow of, all right, we got to rein it in.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a sore subject for like everyone too right now. Like partly it's inflation,
what we've seen
right?
over the past 4 years.
Yeah,
especially.
yeah. So like partly everyone looks at that and they're like, man, they're beating themselves up, even though it's just market conditions to a certain extent.
Yeah. I think my biggest struggle is never thinking that I earn enough, even if the income and expenses are aligned. But I've just always been income is never enough sort of like mindset, always growing up, we never make enough money. And so I still struggle with that part. So, which is why I'm not like a earn money online influencer or anything.
Well, I think somebody wrote in a book that maybe creativity is the solution, Jen.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you could find that in Buy What You Love Without Going Broke.
I mean, my full-time job is podcaster, so...
No, I appreciate y'all sharing, and I love what y'all are saying here. And Jill, specifically, you talking about y'all being a one-car family, having old ratty clothes. We're cut from the same cloth.
No, my clothes aren't old and ratty.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know you don't share video, but...
I think I may have overstepped. I apologize. Just speaking about my own clothes.
I do shower.
It's hard to look at, Jill, is what he's trying to say.
But we really appreciate y'all coming on. We're going to make sure to link to the book, which comes out January 7th, Buy What You Love Without Going Broke. And Jen and Jill, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Thanks for having us. It's been a blast.
So fun.
All right, Matt, that was a good convo.
It was great, man.
And
the Joel and Matt equivalents over there
that's
at
right.
the Frugal Friends podcast.
They're our spirit sisters, that's for sure.
Totally.
All right, so what was your big takeaway from this convo?
Mine, I guess this is a takeaway. It's funny because I'm going to push back like the tiniest little bit, which is so contrarian, because literally everything they say, it's funny because like last week we talked with somebody who everything she said we kind of disagreed with, at least, when it comes to traditional personal.
Or where we came to some of the conclusions from.
Yeah. But like literally everything Jen and Jill are saying, it's like, I mean, totally within the wheelhouse of what we talk about here on the show. But at one point when we're talking about, I forget the context, but they were hating on the why question. Like, why do you spend money on this? And I want to push back just respectfully, and they're not even here to defend themselves, but I think it's okay for us to ask the question why, but it all comes down to like the tone and the attitude and the heart behind the self-examination.
Don't call yourself an idiot while you're doing it.
Yeah, or like there's a big difference between thinking through, man, why do I want to spend money on that, right? Versus, why would you spend money on that? Like there's a massive difference there.
It can be a curious or an angry why.
Exactly. And so maybe that's what we were talking about. Maybe we were talking about the curiosity aspect, one of the sub-skills when it comes to spending money in a healthy way. But I think it's really important for us to ask the question, like, why? Like, what is it about this thing? Because what you're doing is you're peeling back the layers of the onion, trying to get at the root of the thing, as opposed to just being satisfied on the surface with a purchase that may or may not cost you a ton of money. But in reality, maybe there's something a little bit deeper down. Maybe you can get closer to the root of the issue. And maybe that doesn't even cost money. It's totally okay to spend money. But it's, I think, like they were talking about, really important to identify why it is, what it is that we're seeking to mollify, to fulfill, to find fulfillment in, with some of these different purchases that we make.
Yeah. I think my big takeaway was when Jill talked about pie, she said, person in environment. And I love that. I thought it was so good. And she specifically called out clutter kryptonite. And I was like, oh man, this is so interesting how the environment we find ourselves in, and we're humans, right? But you can put yourself in one situation and it's incredibly stressful and you're going to react in one way. And you can put yourself in another situation that's incredibly soothing and you're going to react in another. If I'm hanging out in a hammock or if I'm in an escape room, I'm going to act differently in both contexts. And so I think where we place ourselves matters. The things that we're putting in front of our eyeballs constantly are attracting our attention, and they're subtly changing the way that we think about life, what matters, how our spending is going to impact our happiness. My mom, Matt, always used to say when I was a kid, garbage in, garbage out. And I think as a culture,
wise words.
We're putting so much garbage into our lives, into our brains, when it comes to what we're consuming and the people we're following on social media and stuff like that. And that if we were just to reduce the amount of garbage going into our brains, there's a good chance we'd keep more of our money in our wallets too.
Totally agree, man. The beer that you and I enjoyed during this episode was a 1050, which is an Imperial Stout by Oscar Blues Brewery. Another one we recently had on, we enjoyed a Dale's Pale Ale.
Yeah.
But this is, like I said, an Imperial Stout. What'd you think?
Man, this is what a classic stout is supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
It is big, burly, it's roasty. It's not fancy, like it doesn't have all these adjuncts and stuff added into it, but it's legit.
I like that you said burly. This is like a lumberjack of a stout.
Yes, yes. This is what you imagine, like a 280-pound lumberjack.
Like it only does a couple things, but it does it really well.
Right. Wielding a big axe after a long day of chopping down trees. This is the beer he drinks.
And looking awesome while you're at it. No, I wrote down it's dark and oily. Like it's almost kind of slick, which then made me think of, like not like slick as in weaselly, but like, I don't know, oily. And it also made me think of soy sauce. Like this beer had almost like a soy sauce kind of undertone, which I think there's a lot more soy sauce in my life than there is in your life, Joel.
That's true.
But you'll just have to take my word for it. But soy sauce in the best kind of way when it comes to a stout. But
I like soy sauce, but I don't imbibe it nearly as much as you do.
You probably don't go through as much of it.
You guzzle that stuff.
Yeah. Just before we recorded this episode, took my 6 ounces.
Yeah.
I always do that right after lunch.
There you go.
No, I don't. But we do go through a good amount.
Soy shots.
In our household of 6. But that is going to be it for this episode. You can find our show notes up on the website at howtomoney.com. And we will be sure to link to Jen and Jill's, not only their book, but also their podcast if you want to check it out as well.
For sure.
Buddy, that's going to be it for this one. Until next time.
Best friends out.
Best friends out.
One in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. and nearly half of survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina started the Purple Leash Project to help eliminate one of the many barriers domestic abuse survivors face: a lack of pet-friendly domestic violence shelters. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters across the country, so abuse survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit purina.com/purple to get involved.
This is Radhi Devlukia from A Really Good Cry. When you take a shower, where does your shower take you? If you're like me, your shower is your escape from everything. The Kohler Anthem Plus smart showering system lets you create a personalized refuge by fine-tuning water, steam, light, and sound, all from a single control. You can customize music and lighting, even pre-programmed steam therapies. With Anthem Plus, you're not just imagining your sanctuary, you are creating it. And you can save up to 9 of your customized favorites. Personalize your escape with Anthem Plus smart showering, only from Kohler.
This is Dr. Laurie Santos from the Happiness Lab. Many people have questions about how to improve levels of happiness. Living a healthy lifestyle is one sure way of increasing happiness. And a good place to start is with your oral health. Just a few small changes to your oral care routine, such as changing your toothpaste to Colgate Total, can lead to beneficial changes in your oral health. Colgate Total helps stop oral health problems like gingivitis and cavities before they start, because preventing oral health problems is a lot easier than treating them. Be dentist ready and get Colgate Total at shop.colgate.com/total.
Hey there, it's Scott Patterson from I Am All In Again podcast. Life's short, talk fast. Stream Gilmore Girls on Hulu. That's right. Grab your coffee and get cozy because all 7 seasons of Gilmore Girls are now on Hulu. Stream all the witty banter, heartwarming moments, and awkward Friday night dinners with Lorelai, Rory, and the eclectic mix of characters. Whether you're rewatching or going Gilmore for the first time, Hulu has you covered. It's a show, it's a lifestyle, it's now streaming on Hulu.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. We all know that old saying about teaching a man to fish. And as parents, we want our kids to learn the things that will set them up for success. So this holiday season, give kids money skills that will last well beyond 2024 with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families, where kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely, with parental controls built in. Sign up today at greenlight.com/iHeart. Greenlight.com/iHeart.